Around the world, around the clock. That's the slogan the US Navy uses to attract new recruits. But after a series of accidents in Asian waters this year, the Navy is now 2 ships down in Pyongyang's backyard. Jan Van Tol captained US warships in the same seas where the latest collision occurred. He says the recent incidents were avoidable.
Standard practice when you go through narrow straits like that is to have specially augmented watches, navigation, detail, maybe an extra lookout or two. And one of the things that puzzles me the most in the 2 collisions is, where was the after lookout? It seems to me the after lookout should have been screaming at the bridge, there's something big, close, and gaining.
The USS John S McCain is now back in Singapore's Changi port and will be out of action for some time. Meanwhile, its sister ship, the USS Fitzgerald, is sitting in dry dock at its home port in Japan after its collision in June. Both ships are equipped with Aegis ballistic missile defense systems. That means while on active patrol, they would be capable of shooting down short and medium-range missiles from the Korean peninsula, as well as tracking longer-range missiles. Earlier this month, the John S McCain also reportedly conducted a so-called freedom of navigation operation near islands in the disputed South China Sea, action China sees as provocative and a threat to its sovereignty. US President Donald Trump has vowed to give his military leaders the tools they need to plan for future defense commitments. But military analysts in Washington blame overly stretched naval resources for the recent collisions.
When there's a mismatch between resources and operations, for a while you can bridge that gap simply by running the Navy and the sailors harder than they're capable of sustaining. Eventually you run up to a hard stop where the ships are worn out, the crews are worn out, they've got too much tasking and not enough support. That's the point where we're at now.
Meanwhile, the head of the US Pacific Command, Admiral Harry Harris, has insisted the recent setbacks won't affect the Navy's ability to defend its allies, including South Korea. Military officials say the US has more than a dozen other Aegis-equipped ships in the region. Despite those assurances, what we do know is the DPRK has shown no signs of backing away from its nuclear ambitions, and the US Navy now has 2 fewer ships in the region to monitor a growing threat. Giles Gibson, CGTN, Washington.